Commander Zekthor had seen horrors that would shatter lesser minds. His chitinous exoskeleton bore scars from 100 battles across a dozen star systems. As a veteran of the Galactic Coalition's most elite strike force, he had fought alongside beings that other species whispered about in terror: the Krolvax flesh renders, the crystalline shardborn who could manipulate gravity itself, and the shadow-dwelling Vexkari assassins. But he had never fought beside humans, not until the siege of Epsilon Station. The distress signal had come 3 cycles ago. A hive swarm, billions of insectoid nightmares driven by a single ravenous consciousness, had descended upon the remote mining colony. The Coalition's response was immediate. Zekthor's cruiser arrived with representatives from 17 warrior species, each more terrifying than the last, and then came the human ship. It was smaller than expected, almost primitive in design compared to the sleek bioships of the Krolvax or the living metal constructs of the Shardborn. When the airlock cycled and the human delegation stepped through, Zekthor felt something he rarely experienced: disappointment. They were fragile, soft-skinned with no natural armor, no venomous fangs, no plasma glands. Their leader, Captain Sarah Chen, stood barely to his chest plates. She wore simple combat armor and carried a ballistic weapon, actual projectiles like something from the ancient histories. "Humans," rumbled Grakthar, the Krolvax broodmaster whose claws could shred through starship hulls. "What can you possibly offer us, soft things?" Captain Chen smiled, and Zekthor noticed something unsettling in her eyes. Not fear, not even concern, just a quiet, burning certainty. "We offer endurance," she said simply. The battle began at dawn on Epsilon Station's 40-hour cycle. The hive came as a living wave, a tsunami of chitin and hunger that blotted out the sky. Zekthor had faced hive swarms before. The strategy was always the same: hit hard, hit fast, create enough devastation to force them to retreat and regroup. The Krolvax charged first, their battle frenzy legendary. They tore through hive drones by the thousands, their claws painting the ground in alien ichor. The Shardborn followed, manipulating gravity wells that crushed entire clusters of enemies. The Vexkari melted through shadows, their poison leaving trails of convulsing corpses. For 6 hours the coalition line held. Then the hive adapted. This was what made them truly terrifying. The swarm learned, evolved, became resistant to every tactic thrown at it. The Krolvax began to tire. Even their legendary fury had limits. The Shardborn's crystalline form started to crack under sustained assault. The Vexkari pulled back, their poison reserves depleted. Zekthor watched as his formation began to buckle. They had fought magnificently, but magnificence wasn't enough. The hive was infinite and they were not. "Coalition forces, fall back to secondary positions," he commanded, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "We regroup and—" "Negative, Commander." Captain Chen's voice cut through the comm. "Human forces are moving forward." Forward? Zekthor's eyes tracked to the human positions. They hadn't charged into the fray with the others. Instead, they had fortified, built firing positions, established overlapping fields of fire. As the coalition warriors fell back, exhausted and bloodied, the humans simply stood there and began shooting. The hive crashed against the human lines like a tide against stone, but the humans didn't waver. They didn't rout. They didn't even slow down. They just kept firing, methodical, precise, relentless. When one soldier fell, another stepped into their place. When ammunition ran low, they switched to backup weapons. When those ran dry, they drew blades. Hours passed, then more hours. The other species watched in growing disbelief as the humans held their ground. No battle frenzy drove them like the Krolvax. No exotic powers sustained them like the Shardborn. They simply refused to stop. Zekthor saw a human soldier take a hive drone's claw through the shoulder. The woman screamed, broke the claw off, and kept firing with her other arm. He saw a squad completely surrounded, their ammunition gone, fighting with entrenching tools and rifle butts, singing something in their native tongue. He saw Captain Chen, her armor cracked and leaking blood, rally her troops not with roars of fury but with calm, steady orders. "Stubborn little monsters," Grakthar rumbled, and there was respect in his voice now. "They don't know when to quit." "That's not a flaw," Zekthor realized, his voice filled with wonder. "That's their weapon." The tide turned not with a single devastating blow but through accumulation. The humans fought for 18 hours straight. Then 20. Then 24. They rotated positions. pulled wounded back, brought fresh troops forward, but they never ever stopped. Every inch of ground cost the hive thousands of drones. Every meter became a killing field. And finally, impossibly, the hive retreated. Zekthor found Captain Chen in the medical bay, having her shoulder sealed. She looked exhausted beyond measure, but when she saw him, she stood. "Commander, status?" "The hive has withdrawn. Epsilon Station is secure." He studied her with his compound eyes. "I have fought beside the galaxy's most fearsome warriors. I have seen Krolvax tear through armies. I have watched Shardborn reshape battlefields. But I have never seen anything like what your species did today." Chen managed a tired smile. "We're not the strongest. We're not the fastest. We don't have claws or psychic powers or regeneration. Then what do you have?" She looked back at her soldiers, battered, bloodied, but unbroken. "We have tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. We don't win because we're monsters, Commander. We win because we're human. And humans don't know how to quit." Zekthor felt his respect crystallize into something deeper. Fear? No, awe. Because he finally understood the truth about humanity. They weren't the galaxy's fiercest warriors or its most powerful beings. They were something far more terrifying. They were inevitable. As his ship prepared to depart, Zekthor updated his report to Coalition Command. He had fought beside monsters his entire career. But on Epsilon Station, he had discovered something more dangerous than any monster could ever be. He had fought beside humans, and he hoped to the stars that he would never have to fight against them. Because monsters could be killed, outsmarted, or exhausted. But humans just kept coming.